Done a terrific job.
Why, thank you. Comics in Quarantine, Solving Problems with Stephen Allen and Erich McElroy. Starting soon. Streaming live on the internet.
And I think you said you're going to test that too.
We did test it. Yeah, it works sometimes. Starting soon. Comics in Quarantine, Solving Problems with Stephen Allen and Erich McElroy. Starting soon. Doing online shows.
For much longer than I would have liked.
Suit yourself. Comics in Quarantine, Solving Problems with Stephen Allen and Erich McElroy. Starting soon. From their tidied up offices.
And then I see the disinfectant.
You do not want to know what happened in there before. Comics in Quarantine, Solving Problems with Stephen Allen and Erich McElroy. Starting soon. Answering the questions from
you, the people of this country.
If you email them in, comics@somenews.co.uk or tweet at Mr. Stephen Allen or at Erich McElroy. Comics in Quarantine, Solving Problems with Stephen Allen and Erich McElroy. Starting soon. Starting soon.
In a minute. 1 minute.
Well, maybe a bit longer than a minute, but soon. Soon. Comics in Quarantine, Solving Problems with Stephen Allen and Erich McElroy. Starting soon. The web show we started because we were out of work.
And it is still true.
All right, don't rub it in. Comics in Quarantine, Solving Problems with Stephen Allen and Erich McElroy. Starting soon. Using their expertise to solve problems.
You're going to have to use medical doctors with.
Nope, just two comedians talking rubbish out of their face holes. Comics in Quarantine, Solving Problems with Stephen Allen and Erich McElroy. Starting soon. Lockdown 2020, giving Stephen Allen and Erich McElroy bigger compassion, time to write.
And guts.
Hell yeah.
You've shown and are continuing to show.
Only when we stand up on webcam. Comics in Quarantine Solving Problems with Stephen Allen and Erich McElroy. Starting soon.
Sounds interesting.
Thank you. Comics in Quarantine Solving Problems with Stephen Allen and Erich McElroy.
Hello and welcome to Comedians in Quarantine Solving Problems. I'm Stephen Allen.
And I'm Erich McElroy. Hello.
Hello. Comics in Quarantine. I'm still doing it. We are 16 shows in, and I've not learned the title of the show.
We gave it a complicated title, to be fair.
Yeah.
But, you know, hey, I mean, we didn't realize 10 weeks in that the title would still be relevant.
Yeah, turns out I'd have thought we might have had a career again by now, but no. So we're here doing these shows for you. Welcome. If you're online, Sharon's watching via Twitter, that one is. It says evening chaps. Get the messages coming through. We can fill the show with your messages as well. So update on the beard, by the way, Erich. I've still not said goodbye to it.
No.
I think it's going to go before next week, if I'm
Really?
brutally honest.
Okay. I have been shaving for the show and didn't. I'm glad this is the breaking news that we're starting the show with, especially if you've never been here before. Will you explain the show, Steve? What is this all about?
So two stand-up comedians suddenly made illegal by the laws of the land. So this is like a speakeasy. This is like prohibition, where comedy's been outlawed. So we're doing these comedy shows for you via the internet, sorting out all the problems to do with the news. Because normally we're topical comedians. We've done Edinburgh shows together. We ain't doing that this year.
No.
Not leaving the house. And I used to shave, but then gave up on life.
Yes.
And I wanted facial hair that befits the emotional breakdown that is life. But the reason I might get rid of it, Erich, is I went running today. I've been trying to get back into running. And I overheard a guy shout, "Run, Forrest, run." And I realised having a beard while running, it's not even the best bit of the film, is it? If you're going to have anything in common with Forrest Gump, you don't want it to be beardy running, and you don't want to be getting HIV from Jenny. They're the two things you don't want. The rest of it, Forrest is he's the man. He's the dude.
Jenny was pretty hot, though. I mean, if you're going to get it, you could do worse. And there's a cocktail of drugs for that now. So, you know, back when that was actually, you know, that's not a problem anymore. It's cool. It'll be like, you know, it's like a badge of honor, like getting COVID will soon be.
It will indeed. Actually, more on that later, because I've done the test. I've done the antibody test. We'll talk about that later. If you'd like to, if you enjoy the show at any stage, you think, you know what, we'd buy these people a cup of coffee. The link's down the bottom. Give us the monetary value of a coffee. It would be very much appreciated. And keep the messages coming through. Mike says, "Hi, guys." Chris says, "Evening, my fine fellows." Ooh, fancy.
Flirt. Fantastic. Well, let's kick off with some news. There's been Dominic Cummings has been the dominant story in the United Kingdom. And of course, for those of you from watching from outside the United Kingdom, he's a senior advisor to the Prime Minister who drove during lockdown when he wasn't really supposed to. The government said, he didn't really break the rules. Turns out, according to some people called the police, the Durham police, where he drove, it does look like he may have committed a minor breach of the guidelines when he drove to Barnard Castle on the April 12th. A minor breach, which is better, I always say, than breaching a minor.
Don't let that be your catchphrase. What are you doing, man?
I gotta have a catchphrase. What? I'm talking about a coal miner, Steve. What did you think I meant?
My people, coal miners.
People. So the government has been saying, Prime Minister all went down. He didn't really break the rules. So then I think the government had to have one of those kind of like, hey, squirrel moments. We're like, hey, squirrel. So then soon after that, at Boris Johnson's daily press conference, we got this announcement. Schools and groups of 6 can meet in gardens, the Prime Minister announces. Now, I wasn't into that, but then are those the people I get to meet up with? Is that photo? I mean, I'll be your fifth, ladies. Steve and I'll come hang out. So basically, it seems to me that the Prime Minister is saying, please ignore the fact that my senior advisor broke the rules, and it's not that big of a deal. You can gather with your friends now. Everything's going to be fine. And I realize, basically, there are different rules for other people, and it's time to just rewrite those rules. And I actually have found Boris Johnson has rewritten the 10 Commandments. And I've got them right here. I'm going to share them with you, Steve. I know you're a religious man, so this might radically change your life. Boris Johnson, 10 Commandments. You shall have no other gods before me, obviously, except Dominic Cummings. He's pretty handy to have around. You shall not make idols. And by that, I mean idle threats, like don't drive to Durham during lockdown. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Unless you've just heard the Durham police have said that you broke the law. I mean, Christ on a rope. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, unless you want to drive to Barnard Castle. Honor your father and your mother, unless your father denies how many children he has. You know what I mean? That's Boris Johnson. Never mind. You shall not murder, unless it's a good whiskey. You shall not commit adultery. You shall nail it. These are very close to Boris's heart. You shall not steal. Right? Really? Go ahead. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Everyone else is fine. Because if they're your neighbor, they must be in the same socioeconomic status as you, and you should protect them. You shall not covet. You should just take it and refuse to answer follow-up questions if you're caught. So there we go. It's a new set of rules out there, folks.
Yeah, live like Boris wants to. Excellent stuff. It is. I found it was shocking. We kind of got a lot of the show prepped, and then we watched the daily briefing, and it is an interesting distraction, isn't it? I saw the headline: groups of 6 can meet in parks. Look, I'm still going to want greater detail on this. Like when they say parks, does it have to be a grassy park? Car parks? Tufnell Park? Give me details about where I'm allowed to go and meet up. You are allowed to go into people's gardens as well. Yeah. People I think. I don't know. And which is annoying because everyone's going to be like, oh, now I've got to mow the lawn. And it's not like you can pretend you're too busy. We know you're not busy. The reason that we're getting these extra freedoms is because they've met their 5 tests. The government set out 5 tests. As soon as we get them, here's the 5 tests. NHS has to have capacity. Test 2 is a sustained and constant fall in daily deaths. Rule 3 is about the infection rate needs to be decreased. Rule 4, operational challenges, including testing and PPE. And then the most important one, need to distract from the Dominic Cummings story. That is the big one. And what they've done, in my opinion, my humble opinion, right, they've realised people were going to start breaking the rules anyway. Because people were annoyed with the Dominic Cummings story. Mm-hmm. So a week from now, it would have been people breaking the rules, news coverage of people doing that, saying that's because of Dominic Cummings. So they've given us the freedoms that we would have taken anyway. So in my theory, it's like when you try and give an instruction to a dog and it doesn't listen, and then you just start trying to describe what the dog's doing to make it look like you're still in charge. That always happens to me.
Come here, good boy, come here. I say, come over here. Come here. You gonna come here? Good. You're not. Stay. You stay. You stay where you. That's it. Sit and stay. He does exactly as I say. That's it. You sit and you stay right there. You're a good boy. Now look over in that direction. Good. Good boy. You sit and you stay right there. Come over here then.
We should point out the star of that sketch. Not my dog. Eric's dog. Look at that, acting.
Cute dog. Yeah.
Acting.
Can I? Because that dog cost a small fortune. Can I write that dog off now?
Yeah. Against the profits from this show. Okay.
That's going on my universal credit claim this month. Very good.
So before we get to some more messages, I also want to mention The other piece of breaking news that was related to this, another thing that people said was linked to the Dominic Cummings story, was the rolling out of the test and trace, the track and trace, whatever it's called. Yeah. Here's a picture of Matt Hancock, who was on, this is the thing on Sky, Kay Burley on Sky. Look at his face. He's just happy to be on webcams, isn't he? No one wants to see a webcam, and it's like, hey! Look at him again. Woohoo!
Don't they get media training?
He's not got any there, has he? He's just happy to see Kay again. So I've been looking into the rules of what's going to be happening with this testing and tracing and all that. Two important things. One is they define contact as someone that you've spent more than 15 minutes with closer than 2 meters. And that means if you have a sexual partner, they get COVID-19 and you're not qualified as someone who's had contact, you need to slow down and think of football. The other thing that happened in it is, so here's the rule. And this was on BBC News earlier on. I was shocked when I heard it. They will tell someone, like say if you get a call, they'll inform you that you've got to self-isolate, but they won't tell you who the ill person was that you've been near. I don't know if it's GDPR or some rubbish like that. But that means you could, if you get ill, you could just name anyone that you've been near and make them lock down for 14 days. It's excellent. I'm looking forward to it because it means at some stage I'm going to get this phone call and I'm going to love it.
Hello, Mr. Allen.
Yep, speaking.
I'm calling from the Track and Trace Centre. I'm sorry, I have to tell you, you've tested positive for COVID-19.
Do you know, I did feel a bit peaky.
Well, now I need to know who you've been in contact with so that I can contact them and tell them to self-isolate for 14 days.
Oh.
Don't worry, we won't be telling them that it's because of you.
So whoever I list now will have to stay at home for 14 days and they won't know it's because of me?
Yeah.
Dominic Cummings.
Good idea.
Off the back of that, someone already, Charlie said, I think he should probably start taking vitamin D tablets because it's nice that he got to see the castle for one last time. Yeah, if we all do, and I'm not saying we should do that, but if we all list Dominic Cummings as the person that we've been near, if we're ill, he won't be going to any castles in the future. Just saying.
Yeah, for each person that reported him, they have to add those 14 days together. So the thing would be to time it just right. So when he's on the 13th day, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be free. No, not again."
It's worth looking into.
You have to space it. I mean, that guy, he gets around.
Yeah, sadly. Before and the last bit in this section, then we've got some more messages coming up. But the other thing I wanted to mention, because Kay Burley, we had the picture of Kay Burley. She's been doing some great interviews recently.
Oh, yeah.
And this is one of my favourite ones when she was speaking to Mr. Gove.
We've heard from the Bishop of Leeds. He tweeted on Sunday saying, the question now is, do we accept being lied to, patronised and treated by a PM as mugs? The moral question is not for Cummings. It is for the Prime Minister and ministers, yourself, MPs, who find this behaviour acceptable. What are we to teach our children? Ooh. I ask as a responsible father.
Well, I wish the bishop well.
Is that all you want to say to him?
I wish him well.
Goodness.
Oh, that is some cold moving there. Do you not think it comes across as a bit of a threat? You know, when you so calmly say a nice thing, it's got that vibe of like, hey, you got a nice cathedral there. It would be a shame if something bad was to happen to it. So that's...
I'd like to think it's more of a, Mr. Bond, I wish you well.
No, Mr. Bond, I wish you well.
Yes, well. He's a creepy fucker.
There is that. Let's do some messages before we move on to anything else.
Yes.
Because they've all been stacking up. Mark says, evening, guys, how are you? Doing all right, still got the beard. He says, 11, thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's ox, but her 25-year-old daughter. Nice. He also says that Eric's dog has a better beard than its owner.
Ooh.
Beard
it should. It cost a lot more than I did.
Sal says, was that you doing the Northern Girly voice then? That was a manly voice on the phone, I'll have you know. What the hell is floating in that pond, says Chris. This would have been your picture, would it? Let's have a look. That would have been on... Boom. Oh, yeah.
Some Dominic Cummings droppings? I don't know.
Oh, the word Cummings should not be used around that.
I don't know. And also, while we're looking at messages, I'd like to thank a few people for contributing to the show, which is lovely. Darren, thank you very much for putting a contribution. Chris, a regular viewer, caller, person, and contributor. Thank you very much, Chris. We love you. You're going to own us by the end of this. So if you'd like to buy us a coffee or more, you can do Islington prices. Just drop something in the bucket. Look at that dog. That dog does not. I still got pet insurance on that dog. You can't freaking defer that for COVID. The vet hasn't been there, and the food. I mean, he has very nice food. It's, oh my God, it's so good. And we're going to be eating it soon. So yeah. If don't contribute to Steve and I, just think about the puppy.
Think about the dog. Sharon says, when you're visiting people's gardens, don't drink too much, because where are the toilets? Don't get me started on toilets. I had a 3-hour each-way drive to visit my dad last week, and there were no public toilets.
Really?
I had to plan ahead and start to dehydrate myself from Wednesday. Interesting. That's how you do it.
You also didn't get as much action as you normally do on that drive.
That's true.
Public toilets.
You can't go to the public toilets. I'm with you. I was wondering what you were talking about there. Welcome along. Comics in Quarantine, solving problems.
Stand-up comics, we do a lot of time driving on the road. And sometimes you need that extra little affirmation. It'll pick me up on the way back from a gig in Norwich.
Look, lorry drivers need love too. That's for a different show. Right, let's crack on to the next story. I think we go international.
We are going international, and this is a little bit of a sad one to start with. But there's different counts going on. But the U.S. press is officially called that 100,000 people in America have now since died of COVID-19. But of course, and surprisingly, I'm going to give Donald Trump credit. He actually did send a tweet about it, which we have here, which was nearly presidential. I won't read the whole thing, but he reached a very sad milestone, pandemic reaching 100,000 deaths. I mean, the main thing you can see about this tweet is it was written by someone else, partly because he mentioned God and be with you, and also
errors.
with you.
Yeah.
Now, so he sent that tweet out. That was 1 hour ago when I did the screenshot on this. But if you go back to 2 hours before that moment, he sent this tweet, which is, "This will be a big day for social media and fairness." Now, that's about something that happened to him on Twitter. So let's just remember that before, on the day that we announced that 100,000 Americans had died, he wanted to make sure that he made the point that it's what's happening on social media is more important. And then an hour later, oh, shit. Let's mention this 100,000 people, why don't we? But even before he sent the 100,000 people tweet, he had gone and we got the same tweet again. If you look at it the second time, look at that. It's the same tweet, but he'd retweeted it. So he thought, this is such a good tweet. I'm going to retweet it. And it still took him then another hour to send a tweet about 100,000 Americans. So nice try, Donny boy, but no.
No, Struth. He's the guy in charge of your former country. Enjoy. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Hey, don't blame him. It's the hydrochloroquine talking. It must be that.
True. Fair enough.
I didn't realise there was this whole thing, because I know you were blocked on Twitter by Trump.
I was, yeah.
So that was part of one battle that he had with social media. And then there's this other thing that Twitter's doing of pointing out which tweets might not be true. I didn't know about it until I saw this video on the weekend.
For the first time, Twitter is flagging some of President Donald Trump's tweets with a fact-checking warning.
Wow, I didn't realise that they could do that. So I tracked down the actual tweet. Here it is.
Yeah.
Donald J. Trump, there's no way, zero, his maths is coming on, that mail-in ballots will be anything less than substantially fraudulent. Interesting. And then they say, get the facts about mail-in ballots. And if you want to see, because Twitter's added a bit to the tweet that lets you know it might not be true. And it's this bit up there. There it is. There it is. It's the bit after the @ sign. Before it, you could write anything. It's after it that's the important thing. But what I did, I thought, if that's the rule, if you lie on Twitter and say that it's true, they will fact check you. I spent my day tweeting out things that aren't true to try and see if I could trigger Twitter.
Nice.
I started off with, actually, a poll says that 95% of Brits went to Barnard Castle during lockdown, so you're wrong, Emily Mateless. And they didn't flag that with a warning about it not being true. So I went for, I just heard Elvis was still alive, but he just died from COVID-19, dang it. They didn't flag that as potentially untrue. Then I moved on to those dong lengthening pills that you see advertised in emails definitely work. I'm not even using my finger on my touchscreen for this. And they didn't flag that as potentially true. But given that I didn't want people to think silly of me on Twitter, I then tweeted, "Don't worry about those tweets above. I was just being funny." And they put that on it. Get the facts about being actually funny. They're rat bastards. So
Can't trust Jack. That's what I always say.
yeah, damn it. So be careful out there. And hey, follow me on Twitter. And he's Mr. Erich McElroy at Erich McElroy as well. If you want to send us messages.
That's right. And I've been unblocked by Trump. So
congratulations!
You know, it's fine. Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much. It was a big day. Well, a quick thank you to Martin, who's made a contribution on the old Ko-fi. So thank you very much, Martin.
Nice.
Appreciate that. Loving you. And do we have any other socials there?
Actually,
before we crack on?
the bishop says there are two dodgy dudes on my big 56-incher.
Oh.
Should we see if we can see it? I mean, I'm not sure if you can particularly tell that, but it's on his. He can't see that it's a 50-incher, 56-incher.
You know what? If you say it's 50 inches, I believe you, mate.
Yeah.
5 inches, 50 inches.
If you might not, if you didn't see Tuesday's show,
That's right.
If you're watching us on a big screen, send us a picture of it because we're
Please.
absolutely loving this.
Yeah, we had about 3 people sending pictures. I forgot we were gonna load those up. But to create a new feature of the show of the different media platforms. So we have 3 from last week, so we can do a debut of this on next Tuesday. So whatever device you're watching us on, if you want to snap a little picture and send it to us, that'd be great. And just so that we know that there's actually human beings out there and it's not just some weird Facebook algorithm.
You never know. Martin says this evening's show is wondrous. Thanks so much. However, I'll have to catch up as I'm out at a barbecue with 6 households. Think it's a barbecue. They're in masks. It's in a car park in the New Forest. So, accidentally dogging again. Hashtag accidental dogging. It's bane of my life, mate. Bane of my life. Wherever you're watching it, keep the messages coming through. So we'll do more of these. And if you'd like to buy us a coffee, link at the bottom. Now, I think this story, we flagged this up. A lot of people wanted us to talk about this.
Yes, we're very excited about this. It's going to be a big day for America and for the space and the universe and the galaxy and all those kinds of things. We took the piss out of Richard Branson because his Virgin Galactic thing didn't do very well on Monday. And the big SpaceX was going to be launching the first American manned mission launched from American soil. Was supposed to go up on Wednesday. And it was scrubbed because of bad weather. Unfortunately, we have to wait till Saturday to see if we can do this. It was a big deal. Trump even went down to Cape Canaveral. He took a day off of golfing.
Must be serious.
It's a big deal, guys. Okay? I mean, there might have been 999,999 people dying from COVID, but Trump, golf, deaths, space, he was there. And, of course, he came down and he wanted to talk to Elon Musk, whose company has built the rocket ship. And here we have Trump, actually.
Well, thank you very much. I just want to say this is a very exciting day for our country. We have been at this long and hard for 3.5 years. I want to thank Elon, who's been a friend of mine for a long time, somebody I have great respect for, but this is 24/7 for you. You're always thinking about this. You're thinking about other things, too. You have plenty to think about, but this has been your baby.
This is the top focus by far.
This is the toughest one.
In fact, I've told my team it's not.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. Well, it looks beautiful. We won't say congratulations because we have a long way to go, but magnificent.
What's he doing?
I mean, he was chill. Elon was chill with the whole thing. He's like, well, dude, my rocket's going up today, man. I'm like the mad billionaire, dude. So that's actual footage. I mean, those 2 events. So it is true that Elon Musk was talking to the president yesterday. It is also true that he got stoned on Joe Rogan's show. So those 2 things are factually correct.
He probably also got stoned before he named his baby, but that's...
Oh, yeah. Well, what episode did we cover that in? We covered that, didn't we?
Oh, we should make a list of when you can get... Yeah, there are now so many episodes you can go and watch.
So many episodes. This is episode 16, I think. We don't talk about episode 13. That one didn't work. But there was the moment where they basically, because they got the guys, so basically they go up in the big rocket, they got the astronauts strapped in, and they're there. It's just like Apollo 13, the movie. I mean, hopefully not Apollo 13. Anyway, it's like the movies you've seen about space, and they're there. They have to load them up, and then they have to tell the guys at a certain point that they're not going to launch. And this time it was because of bad weather, and we actually have the moment where they had to tell the astronauts that it wasn't going to happen.
In Dragon SpaceX, unfortunately, we are not going to launch today. You are go for 5.100 launch scrub.
5.100. It was a good effort by the teams, and we understand, and we'll meet you there.
I mean, Elon Musk, if he's going to put pilots in, they're going to be pilots who have similar interests to him. So,
yeah,
I think, it's normal. Trump was really disappointed that the launch didn't go ahead. Almost as disappointed as he was when Eric was born.
Harsh, mean, but true. Nice.
Yes.
Are you upset that it didn't happen? Because
yeah, we were set up to watch it with the kids and stuff like that because I grew up watching space shuttles explode. So I thought this would be really special.
God's truth. Yeah, I like spacey stuff. But the problem is, for anyone who watched earlier episodes, part of my emotional breakdown of lockdown, my hashtag lockdown breakdown, was that before I stopped shaving and washing, you don't need to know about that, I was just watching repeats of Star Trek Voyager. Yeah. And so when I turned off repeats of Star Trek Voyager to watch that launch, it was somewhat underwhelming. Not only because it didn't happen, it was like, all right, it's going out of orbit. It's not Delta Quadrant, is it? Also, I'm now in like Series 6, and I didn't realise how much of Star Trek Voyager is just 7 of 9 breathing out in a bit of a mood. That's all she did. It's true. Before we move away from space, thank you to, who was it? It was MD Ridley, who sent us a tweet on this before. It was on Wednesday or Tuesday night or something. Yes. They managed to find a website where you could send messages. I think you registered to watch it, and then you could send messages to the astronauts. And MD Ridley sent, why are you excited for the launch? Morbid fascination. And there's a message for the crew. Can you bring me back a souvenir? 2020 is going quite well so far. So something along the lines of an alien superbug should go down well. Many thanks. Excellent. Excellent work.
Any other?
Yeah, I can do a few messages. Look, we're getting into the Star Trek. Sharon says, it's Star Trek original series for me. It's so bad it's good. Do you know what? Maybe I should rewatch those. But I'm committed. I'm a completist. And, I'm doing all right on the Voyager. I previously watched all of the Star Trek Next Generations. I ain't going to waste my time on Deep Space Nine. I'm not a nerd.
I have been struggling because I introduced my kids to Star Wars in the right way, where you show the original films first and then you go back to the shitty prequels and then all that. So, but Star Wars, there's such a vast back catalog. It's a problem. Like, because I want them to have the Shatner and I want them to have the Leonard Nimoy, but there's so many things to get through, and then it's too much. I don't know what to do.
And
if only we were stuck at home without anything going on.
I'm definitely not going to rewatch. Netflix keeps suggesting that I rewatch Star Trek Enterprise. That's a weird series.
Oh yeah.
Why? It's like the algorithm doesn't know me. That's what bothers me about it.
Someone sneaking in and watching shows you don't like.
The Bishop on Twitter says the Earth is flat. Controversial. We should do some more on that.
Oh yeah, I used to love those guys.
Yeah. We used to do a radio show together and interviewed a flat earther. Brilliant. We'll talk about that on another show. Yeah. Keep the messages coming through on whichever platform you're doing it. You can tweet me at Mr. Stephen Allen. You can tweet Eric at Erich McElroy. We should do a thing where we bring up our Twitter names on screen. I think I've got the technology.
Yeah. There we go. There's a project for you for the weekend.
Yeah.
And if you're enjoying the show and you'd like to chuck us a coffee, please do so. We appreciate that. We are coming towards the end, but we still got a few things left to talk about, Steve.
Yeah. So I keep trying to keep an eye on what's going to open up and when it's going to open up and how. And good news if you enjoy eating, as restaurant bosses are considering using glass bubble pods to keep the diners safe. Now, we can talk about it. Yeah, you can talk about that all day, but you need to know what it looks like. Here's the guy who invented it, sat in it. Nice. And here's a couple enjoying their meal.
Oh.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
it's good because if they sneeze, they're not going to affect each other. Also, probably can't actually talk.
What happens if you fart when you are?
Echoes shoots right up the hole in the top of it. The whole thing reminds me of this, and this will be a reference that not everyone gets, but that invention is basically this.
We can talk under the cone of silence.
The cone of silence? I am deeply concerned about the conference room.
What?
I'm concerned about...
Well, a cone of silence, 99.
I could watch that over and over again.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
So that's the food side of things. Before we move on to our regular recurring section about sport, Sal says Kirk did have the very first flip phone. Interesting.
True. Yeah.
And let's have a look. On YouTube, Simon Dan does Flat Earth Friday broadcast. It's hilarious. Well, do you know what? We should. I like that Mark Sargent guy. He's the Flat Earther guy. We should. Because what I love about Flat Earthers, just as a quick aside, is that they think that Australia doesn't exist, which means the TV show Neighbours is part of the conspiracy. That is commitment to the cause, making every episode of that for no good reason.
Brilliant. Right. Well, have we reached that time?
Yeah.
The special time of the show, where we've got a whole new segment. Steve?
Well, yeah, we do so much sport that we thought we should make ourselves a jingle.
Sports. Sporty sports. Sports.
Nice. That is very good. Now, the reason why we are so sport is that Steve and I don't know anything about sport, and that's why this is the first time in the show we're talking about it. But there was a big story in sport, which obviously not even much of it's been going on in the current crisis, but the Arsenal football team soccer uniform has leaked, and we've got a little picture of the new uniform for the Arsenal team, known as the Gunners. There it is. We've got a couple shots of it there. But it looks like they've pointed the gun at themselves. What? I mean, I know we're in, what is it, a zombie film? What the fuck is going on? And I mean, is that the way that we're going to go now with football type gear, or any sort of sports team? Like there's the Spurs. Are they going to actually be stabbed with a spur?
Nice.
Is there, I mean.
Go on, do another.
I can't.
Okay.
I mean, I did think about Googling a bunch of names of sports teams, but I just don't care about sport enough. I mean, I just couldn't give a shit. But you could do it. I mean, you don't need us for that one. You can just go find your sports team, the sea hockey things, and stick a Seahawk in an eye. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's sports.
Just going back to looking at that again, because I've noticed that people who have a lot of the fashionable people wear very ripped jeans these days, and they look like they've survived a werewolf attack. Could you imagine those jeans on the bottom of that outfit? Wowzers. You'd look like you've just recently survived. It's like Dawn of the Dead or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brutal. Actually, Sharon says, "Oh my lord, group nosebleeds." There it is. But to be fair, during social distancing, if you want people to stay away from you, dress like you've just bled all over yourself, and they'll probably stay at least 2 meters away.
Probably. That's a good way to do it. I mean, there's one way to find out if blood does spread the virus. There you go.
So.
Man alive. And that was us two talking about
sports. Sporty sports. Sports.
Our area of expertise. Have a look. Mark says it looks like they've made the Arsenal shirt out of a giant Viennetta. That is one of the nicest ways of describing it, because everyone else just thinks, are they actually, do you know what? I know we're meant to move on from it, but they shouldn't be sponsored by Fly Emirates, because it looks like you're walking away from a plane crash. When I crash Emirates. It's true. They should be sponsored by flipping Tampax. This is why we don't improvise.
Don't improvise. It's going to be in the post-show notes.
Don't let me just carry on talking about a topic.
Carry on. Well, I think we're close to the end. We've got the weekend as a break. Steve, before we go, do you have anything coming up this weekend?
Yes, actually. So Friday night, I'm doing a Hampstead comedy online gig, but they're doing it at midnight. So Friday night, midnight, technically Saturday, but dial in before. Sunday night, 7 or 8 o'clock, one of those. I'm doing a gig as well. Check my social media for it. I've got into it. Since doing your gig, I decided I might as well do online gigs because I've got nothing else going on. And
hopefully...
Yeah.
Oh, and?
No, I was going to say also next week, get the results from this. I stabbed myself in the finger because I did the antibody test. That's bruised like a bad boy.
Wow, look at that. I thought maybe you were trying to make your own Arsenal shirt.
That's there. It's cheaper. Well, next week on the show, make your own away kit.
Wait, so we get to find out if you're one of the infected.
Former infected.
Former.
If I've had it and got over it, we'll find out. I'm excited.
You might get to do a little track and trace yourself.
Yeah. You know what? If it looks like I've had it, Dominic Cummings.
That's brilliant. Well, you mentioned it's Sunday at 8 o'clock. If you go to crackcomedy.com, we've got a live streaming show there every Sunday. We've got Hal Cruttenden this week, Tez Ilias. They've both been on Live at the Apollo, but they haven't been on this. And also Michael Fabry and Caroline Mabey and myself. So you can check that out. And the good thing is now, so if Steve happens to be on at the same time as we're on, because you don't have to go to a physical place, you can just log into both our shows on different devices in your house. And do that because we've got no other income. So
we're back on Tuesday, although I've got a little news alert that says Trump signs order targeting social media companies, which could open Twitter and Facebook up to lawsuits.
Woo!
We covered it here. This is breaking news territory, this.
Breaking. So basically, thank you, I guess, for watching. If there's any other socials we need to... any other last minute messages that have come through?
Chris says, sponsored by Pile Cream. I hope he means the shirt and not this show.
Although we would take sponsorship.
Oh, yeah. We will look into that, definitely.
Because I have had piles, so I can talk about that. So I guess thank you very much. Thank you very much for those who've contributed. We really appreciate it. If you want to spread word about the show, it stays on YouTube. You can share it with people if you thought it was funny. You can subscribe to our channel as well. That's kind of our main base, even though we're on different platforms. And just let people know and join us every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 o'clock in the UK or whatever time it is, wherever you are.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll see you Tuesday. Till then.
Thank you. See you. Bye.